Good afternoon, everyone. We're here to unveil the new Milan striker, Santiago Gimenez. He's a player that we've been following and tracking for a long time, including last summer. We spoke as to whether we could do the deal last summer, but there wasn't scope to do so. And so we went in another direction. But he's now here. That's the most important thing. We're delighted about that. And I'd like to introduce you to Santiago Gimenez. Then again, his quality and everything else goes without saying. Don't necessarily need any further introduction. So I don't want to put too much pressure on it. I'll let him introduce himself. Milan TV. Good morning, Zlatan. Hi, Santi. Zlatan. Throughout the club, you have strengthened the team in the January transfer window. Do you expect the Milan season to take a positive turn now for the better? It was a very intense day yesterday, albeit it was always under control. I need to thank the lawyers, the General Secretary and everyone that was involved, because they did so much work. There were so many deals on the table, but ultimately we were able to succeed in securing every deal that we wanted to. It's quite simple. We're not happy or content about our league position at this moment in time. We have strengthened the team. 5 in, 5 out. And for every player that left in a certain position, another player came in to fill the same role. So we're happy about that. And this is the team that will now change our situation. Thank you, Zlatan. Hi, Santi. I wanted to ask you about your emotions of this move from Feyenoord in Rotterdam to Milan. You've conducted this transfer with your family alongside you, your dreams and aspirations at this moment in time. Thank you very much. One of my main dreams when I was a kid was to play in Europe, and that's now a dream come true. And once I was in Europe, I wanted to play in one of the biggest clubs in Europe, and I'm now doing so. But my dream, my main ambition now is to try and leave my mark in such a big side. Hi, Santiago. Welcome to Milan. I wanted to ask you, given that you came off injured in your most recent match, how are you? Because you trained separately yesterday, and are you available for selection to play against Roma tomorrow? To Ibra, I'd like to ask you, 5 in, 5 out, as you just mentioned. Have Milan simply cut the gap on the teams above them in the league table, or have you completely wiped the slate clean in terms of the gulf between you and other sides with the last day of the transfer window? Thank you. With regards to the first question, yes, I did suffer a small injury in my last game, but I am raring to go. I am ready to play. As to whether we've cut the gap in terms of quality, you mean? We've strengthened our squad. What we think and what we believe is that this will allow the team to progress. As for whether we have cut the gap, we'll see. Time will tell. But this is what we believe, and this is what we've done. Consulting with the head coach, I believe the team has improved a great deal. Gazzetta dello Sport. Hi everyone, hi Santi. I'd like to start with Zlatan, a question for both of you. Zlatan, I'd like to ask you something personal. It's probably your first transfer window where you've had a starring role along with Furlani and Moncada. Do you really feel that this is your mission for Milan? I wanted to get your personal thoughts on how the last couple of days have gone as a sporting director, essentially. First and foremost, I'm not a sporting director. It was intense. It was very interesting because there were so many transactions. You go from one situation to another, and then there's the countdown. The clock is ticking, and you need to make sure you get everything done before the countdown comes to an end. But everything that we've achieved was everything we were trying to do. Certain situations arose. It's all very dynamic. Things move very quickly. I have some colleagues that are doing a terrific job. They're doing excellent work. And everything that we do is done so as a team. The results will speak for themselves. But it was very interesting. And to Santiago, I'd like to ask you your behind-the-scenes look. What was your experience of this deal? Maybe Sergio Conceição has been on the phone to you, telling you about how he wants you to play, or talk to us about the negotiations, whether it was a difficult deal. Thank you. First and foremost, although they were tracking me since last summer, all I do as a footballer is to try and focus on what I have to do on the pitch. So my family and my entourage, those around me, have made sure that this is possible. I'm a man of faith. I think everything is in God's hands, and thanks to God, we've been able to make this deal a reality. A question for both of you. I'd like to start with Zlatan. Zlatan, what didn't work out over the last 6 months, and what do you believe you've now sorted out with this transfer overhaul? Because it is a transfer overhaul. I believe we lacked continuity, consistency. Because when things are going well, we couldn't necessarily string together several wins on the bounce. But then when you do win matches, then victories breed confidence. But otherwise, if you encounter hurdles, then of course you need to almost wipe the slate clean and start again from scratch. But you need to once again seek consistency. That's what was missing. That's what we're lacking. We've had some highs and some lows. But we're the only team thus far that's taken a piece of silverware home with us. It could have gone better, but it's not been bad. We'll keep battling. Milan are playing to get results, to win things. And when you win things, you win trophies.
Santi, bienvenido.
Welcome, Santi. I wanted to ask you, what do you think about this team from the outside looking in? I'm sure you've watched some of Milan's matches. What's been your perspective from the outside, and what do you think you can contribute? How many goals do you think you can score between now and the end of the season? What I can promise you is that I'll do everything in my power out there on the pitch. I don't believe in individualism. I believe in team play. I think we've got a great team here, a very competitive side, and we can be competitive in many different ways. I think we can win and win a great deal. On a personal level, I can't necessarily promise you X number of goals, but I certainly will give my utmost for this team out there on the pitch. Just a quick question for Zlatan. Hi, I'd like to ask you, did there come a time when all of you in the senior management took a moment to think and said, let's start restyling, overhauling the team, because this is unusual. This really is a massive transfer revolution, signing 5 new players. When was the time that came that we needed to make so many changes, 5 new signings and a new head coach? At the start of the season, when we began this campaign, we believed in what we'd done. But the situation is very dynamic. It all depends naturally on results. And as you've seen with everything that happened yesterday and with Santiago a few days ago, clearly we're not happy. We're not satisfied with the situation. So we've tried to change things. We've tried to bring something new in, not with one single signing, but with several signings to try and bring more to the team. As I said earlier on, if you don't get results, then you try and get them in another way. And that's the situation here. That's what it all comes down to. We weren't satisfied. We're not happy. We still have a piece of silverware, and yet we're still not happy. We want even more because we're hungry to achieve even more. Thank you. La Repubblica. Hi, Zlatan. Hi, Santiago. Welcome to the club. A question for each of you. Zlatan, I'd like to start with you. You made 5 important signings. Almost all of them were sealed in the last week, some of which were in the final hours of the transfer window. Is the reason why you decided to make your moves right at the end of the transfer window? Were there certain situations that led you to making these particular choices? Maybe there were issues or there were specific requests from the head coach, Sergio Conceição, that led to you changing a large portion of the team in the final days of the window. Every situation is different. There are 3 parts to a deal. There's Milan, the player, and the club where the player is playing. All 3 parties need to reach an agreement in order for the deal to get over the line. But as I said, everyone had their own situations. Certain negotiations were longer than others. Some deals were quicker, but every case is different. And ultimately, the players came in consultation with the head coach so that we can then turn the page. But every case is different. The final one was Riccardo Sotil, which was 90 seconds before the end of the January transfer window. We got it done. It was hugely stressful. That's why I thanked the lawyer and all of the secretarial team, because they worked behind the scenes and no one's speaking about them. And yet they deserve a lot of credit for that. They're doing a great job. They're young people. That's what I like. They're really hungry. They're very keen. And they work very hard. And that's the way it should be. Thank you. A quick one for you, Santiago. what do you think your biggest strength is? And do you think you have a weakness that you'd like to work on? And is there a striker that you look up to or idolize? Thanks for the question, and thanks for what you said at the start. I'll start with the second part of your question. Someone that I've been keeping an eye on, not simply because he's here, but because of his entire playing career, is Zlatan Ibrahimovic. What he's just been saying here in the press conference room is everything that he showed on the pitch, and it's wonderful now for me to be a Milan player. Passion and power are two of my strengths and my skill set, but there are certain areas of my game I need to work on. I need to touch things up here and there in various areas of the game, but that's something that we'll do whilst I'm here. I'll work very hard to make sure I'm up to standard and that I do the utmost for the fans. Hi, Santiago. Could you give us the correct pronunciation of your surname so at least we know it for once and all? Gimenez. Okay, thank you. I wanted to ask you this. We know that it's never easy to move clubs in January. Feyenoord are a big side in the Netherlands. How tough was it for you to actually ask Feyenoord and convince them to let you leave mid-season? How much did you have to push to leave the club and come to Milan? I think Zlatan should probably answer that question, and the lawyers and my agents and representatives, they were the ones that were in charge of the negotiations. They were the ones that had to push the club. All I had to do was play football, leave everything in God's hands, and ultimately things were successful because that's what God wanted. We players don't get too heavily involved in negotiations. Certainly we don't argue either. We simply focus on working hard, playing football, and we leave everything in the hands of negotiations and those who are overseeing the deal. A question for Santiago Gimenez and one for Zlatan as well. What's the meaning behind you choosing number 7? Have you chosen that for a reason? And were you fearful in the January transfer window that the deal might have not got over the line like last summer, given that Milan were interested in you last summer? And to Zlatan Ibrahimovic, why has Benacer left the club? There's rumours about him falling out with the head coach. Could you clarify the situation as to why Benacer has left the club? Thank you. After you. As for Milan's approach last summer, Milan have always been a dream for me, a goal, an objective, something that I wanted to reach in moving here. But as I've already said, I really am focused on working hard and playing football. I knew that the door was always ajar. Milan were keeping an eye on me, and that was a huge source of motivation to keep performing. What was the other question? Sorry, I forgot it. Number 7 has a number of reasons for me. It was one of the numbers which was available, and it was also Andrei Shevchenko's shirt number, so that was a huge source of motivation for me. And there's another meaning. In the Bible, 7 is the perfect number, so I had absolutely no doubts whatsoever in picking 7. As for Ismail Benacer's situation, it was quite simple. He asked to move on to pastures new. He was very important for Milan. He won 2 trophies. He was very unlucky with the injury that he sustained. That meant he was on the sidelines for quite a while. He's just come back to full fitness. Just before the Super Cup in January, when he came off the bench, he tried to get back in, but in fact, it was actually him who was seeking a new adventure, a new opportunity. And I say, if someone comes to us and they're looking for something new, or they've got another idea in their mind, then they shouldn't be here. Because if they've got something else in mind, then they're already out of the team. Then we gave him a hand to try and find the best possible solution, both for him and for us. Very simple. Thank you.
Hola Santi, bienvenido.
Hi Santi, welcome to the club. What did you mean with that celebration when you scored against Bayern? Were you saying I'm staying here? The Milan fans got a little bit concerned because at that stage we were all a little bit discombobulated. And a question for Ibra, do you want to answer was yesterday's an answer to all the fans protesting the ownership recently? That was a message for us, no?
No, si ves partidos anteriores, yo ya hacía
No, if you actually watch, even in previous matches, that was the way I celebrated every time I scored, as if to say, no, we're here and now, this is what we're all about, this is final, that's the way I celebrated my goals. But yeah, from a media perspective, yes, then that did cause a bit of a ruckus, but that's typically how I celebrate when I score. As for the fans, the last Scudetto that I won was thanks to the fans. And this team is much stronger, with doubly strong if and when we have the fans behind us, because the supporters are very important for everyone. And there's a big difference between when there's silence and when there's a lot of noise. You can see that out there on the pitch as well. The team it's Milan 2.0 with the fan base behind us. That's very important. But for other reasons, there are a number of things that I can't necessarily keep an eye on, but we are working hard. We're doing everything in our power to try and get results. And as I said, this team is a lot stronger with the fans behind us. You need to look at the last Scudetto that we won. We were a team that weren't necessarily even in the top four, according to everyone. But we won it with the fans driving us on, and that's why it's very important for the players to have the fans behind them. Because when you get that lift from the crowd, then it does give you a big lift. That's what it's all about. Welcome, Santi. It's always nice to see people from our continent playing here. A very quick question for you, which pertains to the atmosphere that you've come into, what they've said to you. The Milan fans, and I'll ask a question to Zlatan in Italian. What really caught your eye in terms of Santi and his ability and his skill set? What do you think he can bring to this team? Could you say as much to the fans watching from the other side of the world in Mexico? What sort of team is Santi Gimenez coming into? At this moment in time, what are Milan all about? What sort of team are they? Thank you.
Yo veo al Milan como un traje a la medida para mí, porque es un club con pasión, es un club con
Milan really are like a tailor-made suit for me, because there's passion, there's strength, there's power, there's will to win, they're hungry for trophies, there's great spirit here at the club. And I really identify with those values. I see myself in the club. I've got that spirit and that will to win. So I do think that this is bespoke for me. It's a perfect fit, this club, for me. I do everything in my power to try and leave my mark. Gimenez is a player with great ability. He's hungry to score goals. He reminds me of another player, Francesco Camarda. He's got the same hunger to score goals, and you either have that or you don't. But he can score goals with his head, his right foot, his left foot, inside the box. I think his real strength is inside the box, but he can help the team, works hard off the ball, he can set up goals as well as score them. I didn't really understand the last question that you were saying. What sort of Milan side does Gimenez come into? What sort of condition are Milan in at the moment? No, he'll come into a Milan side that are very strong. They'll play with Rafael Leao, Pulisic, Reinders, Fofana, with Walker, with a number of players that can provide him with assists. Don't worry about that. Thank you. TNT Mexico.
Sí, aquí Ignacio Miguélez.
Even Mike Mignon can provide assists. He's also done so in the past.
Ignacio Miguélez,
I'm back here.
TNT Sports México. En español para Zlatan.
Question for Zlatan in Spanish. I wanted to ask you, speaking about Santi, as you were saying earlier on, I wanted to get your opinion about Santi's qualities, his attributes, because you really made history in football, Zlatan. Do you really believe that Santi can leave his mark in football in general and in Milan more specifically? That's what we want. He's here to get results. He's here to bring us results. And we do hope that he will leave memories, and positive ones at that, and we'll help him every which way, every way we can, so that he is successful. I think he's in safe hands. He's got good chance of being successful, but we'll take things one step at a time. He's only just joined the club. We'll help him. We'll give him the best possible chance to succeed. And it also depends on the player. What sort of desire he has, what his targets are, what he's looking for. But everything around him is down to us. That's our issue. But he needs to be fit and firing and try and get results. That's what his job is. You've already asked the question that I wanted to ask, so I'll press on with Ibrahimovic, but welcome anyway. We've already spoken about the fans. There have been some tricky months recently. I wanted to ask you, you've always said that you're used to being criticized, but I wanted to ask you whether this has actually hurt you a bit more, given that you're a Milanista and you've always shown your great love for this team. How does it feel to hear all of this rumors and noise around the club, and what do you think about the situation? I've just explained things. When it comes to the fan base of the team, are much stronger with the supporters behind us. As I've said, the last Scudetto, the most recent Scudetto we won, was thanks to the fans. In my case, I'm focused, I'm working hard to get results. But if you're talking to me as a footballer, I loved to be hated. You're speaking to the wrong person. Because I didn't necessarily need everyone around me to be motivated. When I was angry, that would bring the best out of me. Hi, a question for Zlatan and one for Santi. First, for Zlatan, after the Champions League playoff draw, was it important to sign Santi, given that you're going to play against Feyenoord? So we're even concerned that Santi might actually score goals against Milan. But Santi, how do you feel about your first upcoming matches? You're coming up against Feyenoord, given that you played for the last 2.5 years. And I wish you all the best at the club. No, we would have been better off beating Dinamo Zagreb, and we wouldn't have gone into the playoffs. We wouldn't have had 2 extra matches. It wasn't a positive result for us, but that's fate. When you bring a player in from a certain club, then fate sees to it that you come up against that same side. It happened to me on a couple of occasions. A couple of times I won, a couple of times I lost. This time we'll win. And this time around, Gimenez will play in Rotterdam with the Milan colours, and they'll score too. Thank you.
It's
going to be lovely to go back to Rotterdam, as Zlatan said. That's football. These things happen. It'll certainly be a very special occasion for the fans, but also for the other players and the staff, because they were my family, and they'll continue to be my family in the future. So it'll certainly be a special occasion. Last 2 questions.
Buongiorno, benvenuto Santiago.
Good afternoon, welcome Santiago. Ibra, you have a great relationship with Adriano Galliani, who loves to sign big players. Is this your time now, Ibra, after yesterday?
Sono nate le ore, come i giorni del Condor di Adriano Galliani, se ieri sono nati i giorni di Ibra.
Was it the hours and the days of Ibra in the transfer market? What does that mean? I don't understand the question.
Adriano
Galliani used to love signing transfer deals in the final days and hours of the window. No, I've already explained that it's all very dynamic. Everything happens at the end. And, you know, these are negotiations. You conduct one to try and get results elsewhere, but it's very interesting. But it's a new experience, and I worked with the number one, Mina Raiola. And today I realized just how good Mino was compared with everyone else. I don't mean to offend anyone, I say it with the utmost respect, how much better Mino was than everyone else. Question for Santiago. Welcome to Milan and Milan. When the news broke that you might be signing for Milan, all of the Rossonero fans, the Mexicans, and all Mexican supporters were over the moon, because there's not a great tradition of Mexican players in Italy. I think you're the second Mexican player in Milan history. And what does that mean to you? Does that give you added motivation? And how have your first few days gone in Milan? Have you spoken to Sergio Conceição? What have your impressions been?
Sí, todo jugador tiene la responsabilidad de llevar la bandera al terreno de juego.
Every player has the responsibility to carry their national colours out there on the pitch, and it's now up to me to represent Mexico here for Milan. It's a great opportunity, it's a huge responsibility to represent Mexico at such a top club, and also to leave my mark here. We're a very united, together country in Mexico, and we all want each other to succeed. And I won't be on my own whilst I'm at Milan. I'll have Mexico right behind me. They'll be pushing me forward, driving me forward, and that is a huge source of pride. One final question, Carlo Beregatti, very quickly, please. Hi. A very simple question. Can you become a better player? You're already a Mexican hero because you already scored a winning goal a couple of minutes in the Gold Cup from time against Panama. Can you become a better player than Hugo Sanchez, the greatest Mexican player of all time? I haven't come here to make comparisons with other players. I'm here to continue my career, to leave my mark. Of course, I'll try and do what I want to achieve with humility and faith, working hard as I've always done, and then it will be up to people to decide what will be. But I will try and press ahead in my own career. I'm not going to compare myself to any other player. I'm Santiago Gimenez, and I want to make my own mark. Thank you very much.